Good morning and welcome to the weekend. It's Saturday, October 5th, 7:54 in the morning. And I'm trying to get sick, and so usually about once a year, you get a little bit of a cough, a little respiratory, and then your voice sounds like the announcer dude on the movies. In a world where a very strong low in Canada is moving eastward, pushing a cold front into the northern plains, causing a high fire danger. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. Hopefully you didn't turn away. We have a strong upper level low that's moving through Canada and dragging a cold front across Montana into the Dakotas this morning. And you can see that really well defined here. So hang on, there we go. There's my cursor. So here's our low. Here's the cold front, very well defined. And ahead of this, and we've been talking about this, high pressure to the east, low pressure to the northwest. South winds blowing into the front, and it's going to be gusty and warm ahead of the front, and the high fire danger is in here for sure. Now we see a little disturbance down here, Bay of Campeche, and we'll show you in our next couple maps that our fortunes have changed, and this is not good news. Looks like now a hurricane is likely for Florida later this week or next weekend. So that's not good news. In the meantime, there's tropical moistures, some showers, some pretty good showers here along the Gulf Coast. A little low up here in Maine, so kind of chilly up here, a little bit of rain in Maine, moving into the maritime provinces of Canada, and a system trying to make it to Washington, moving into British Columbia. All right, let's take a look at our hazards across the country. And there it is. Look at that big area of a red flag warning from Montana to Wyoming to Colorado into Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, parts of Minnesota here into western Iowa, and even up there the UP of Michigan. So just high fire danger here, this whole area where the fire danger isn't as great, but the winds will still be strong. We have high wind warnings for North Dakota into Montana, and the lighter brown is a wind advisory, so just windy this whole area. And again, the fire danger is a real deal, especially in the northern plains and upper Midwest today. It's still hot in California and Arizona, so excessive heat warnings continue here, heat advisories in the orange. Further to the east, it's fog, Mississippi, Tennessee, a little bit of North Carolina into Virginia, into Maryland and Delaware. And flooding problem still a problem on some rivers in the southeast and mid-Atlantic. All right, let's take a look at the tropics because it's not good news. I'm so sorry. The GFS was trending towards not a hurricane. Even the National Hurricane Center yesterday was saying just a 40% chance of something forming out here in the Gulf, which is a decent chance. But look where they have it now. So first of all, you have Kirk in the middle of nowhere, Leslie out there in the middle of nowhere, both hurricanes now, and an area that has a less than a 40% chance of development there to the east and northeast of Leslie. And so the red X in the Gulf of Mexico, 90% chance of development in the next 7 days now. And it is showing up in the GFS as well, so we'll show you that. And if it becomes a named storm before anything else, we'll be on the M's, and so they alternate men and women names, and so Leslie M is going to be Milton. So we could have Hurricane Milton heading to Florida by the weekend. Surface today. Here's our cold front through the Dakotas into Wyoming, and ahead of that is the critical fire weather possible. We do have a small patch of severe weather possible up there in Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan. The main threat here is large hail, but not too far from Green Bay, for example. So watch out there. Some scattered storms around that for the Great Lakes, scattered showers and storms along the southeast up to the mid-Atlantic, and your general rain from that low that's in Maine. General rain in Maine. Temperature anomalies today, very warm ahead of the front. So, 30 degrees above average. Central Iowa into Omaha and Lincoln. Lincoln, they have a football game today. It's going to be hot and windy. Kansas also very warm ahead of that front, and very warm in California, as we outlined. And this is how those temperatures translate. And so upper 90s for Omaha, 97 for Des Moines. Now, the forecast for Omaha is not 98, at least not the local weather service. Now, we'll see who's right, GFS or the real life meteorologists, because we're going more for 95 max for Omaha today. But we'll see. I mean, it could get hot. Now, where I live in western Iowa, we're expecting 89 this afternoon, winds gusting to 35. So definitely high fire danger there. Highs, Central California, 102, 102, 107. Into southern Arizona, 104, 105. It's hot. 90s for much of Texas, into Oklahoma, and into Kansas and Missouri as well. And then cooling off as you head into the Midwest, 70s there. And the Northeast, really the most pleasant, I would say, especially with that low in Maine and the cooler air behind that. I mean, we see some 50s on that map, especially up there in Maine. We do see some 50s also into northwestern Montana, and cooler with elevation. The lows tomorrow morning, see some 30s up there in the northwest, 40s for a large chunk of the west, and into the northern plains now as that front pushes through, and the upper Midwest too. So 40s for Green Bay, 45. 54 to start the day. Des Moines tomorrow will be 50s to near 60 for Kansas, and then 60s for Texas, with some 70s as you head south and towards the Gulf Coast. A lot of the southeast starting the day in the 70s, and then 60s further north. Oh, I'm so sorry. 50s mid-Atlantic, and then 40s up there in the northeast. Very cool. All right, tomorrow, cold front through the Midwest, secondary front moving through. So it's going to knock our temperatures back down to average for Tuesday, which is really nice. And ahead of all of that, we have a chance for some showers, Ohio Valley into the Northeast, and some showers into Florida. Now, something to watch in Florida, that stationary front draped across the center of the state as tropical moisture from our forming low streams over Florida. It's going to be heavy rain, followed by heavy rain, followed by heavy rain, and then eventually by perhaps a hurricane. So it's going to be a mess in Florida this week with very heavy rainfall amounts, and then possibly a hurricane on top of that. All right, the temperature anomalies for tomorrow. Florida, with that heavy rain, is going to be 10, 15 degrees below average. Everyone else above average, except for the Great Lakes. Really close to average or slightly below. Same for Maine. Everyone on the warm side, especially California. And the highs, this is how that translates into 105 for Fresno, California, 106 for Phoenix, 111 for Yuma. So yeah, it's hot. Even the Pacific Northwest, I mean, pleasant 70s for the Willamette Valley, and in the interior, all the way into Montana, really. And then 70s into the Central Plains, 80s, and then 90s further south, of course. 70s for the Great Lakes and Northeast. Very nice there. All right, your 48-hour rainfall. It's starting to pick up in Florida, especially off the coast, but moving onshore. Even down around Miami, this shows a couple, 3 inches possible in southern Florida and just off the coast. So, and that will be moving onshore past the 48 hours. So this is the next 2 days of rain, and the rain's going to be picking up and being more persistent. But even up in Jacksonville, you see 2 inches plus possible along the Atlantic coast. Meanwhile, up in the Northeast, it's a quarter inch to a half inch for most, maybe approaching over 3/4 of an inch for some. And then the Pacific Northwest, mainly on the Canadian side, some showers up there. Looking ahead to Monday, cooling off in the Midwest, Upper Plains, Central Plains. Very nice, and quieting down. Florida, lots of rain, heavy rain, flash flooding possible as the low gets closer. You see that stationary front draped across the state. That's just going to be a focus for showers and storms and heavy rainfall. So that's kind of our biggest story as we go through into next week. Washington with some rain up there. For Monday, staying below average for Florida, a little bit below average for, say, Tennessee, Kentucky, up into Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, 5 to 10 degrees below average for some here. And so that's pleasant. And then warming back up in the plains. We're back to 10 to 15 degrees above average in the plains again. And that translates into pretty much the entire West, and then even higher above average for California, where it's going to be 100, 100, 102. Southern Arizona still over 100. Very hot here. But cooling off in the Northeast, very nice. And 70s for Florida, which for this time of year is below average. All right, let me set up. I think I did set it up. How about that? You crazy. All right, there's some things on the GFS that are also kind of crazy. So I want to go over those with you. So let's go through this. This is this morning. Here's our low up here. And we see the isobars very close together. So very windy, especially for the Dakotas, but also out here in the plains. So lots of wind and very dry. We haven't had rain in a long time, or at least not much to speak of. And as that low continues, then it's going to push a cold front through, which is nice. But ahead of the front, as I was talking about yesterday, that front is pushing the air, and those isobars are close together, so the air is being squeezed. And when you squeeze air, you get compression, which heats it up. And so that's why we're seeing such a warm-up ahead of the cold front. And that's pretty typical, especially in the plains. The stronger the front, usually, the more the warm-up. And then usually the bigger the cool-off as well. And so that's what's happening here. That's part of what's happening. Also, those winds are coming up out of the south, so that's where the warmer air is. So the combination, the wind and the dry air and the heat. Just watch out. Fire danger here. But as the front moves through, it's going to cool things off, and you see some showers. Again, our severe weather possibility. Let me back up a couple frames. Our severe weather possibility up here in northern Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan as that front moves through. Large hail is the biggest threat. And as we get into Sunday, the storm makes good progress into James Bay, Hudson Bay, and the trailing cold front moving through Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York State. Some showers and storms here and moving off the coast. Then we turn our attention down here to Florida. So we're already seeing some heavy rainfall with that tropical moisture. And again, there's a stationary front draped across here, which would be a focus for heavy showers. That continues. This is Monday evening. This is getting into Tuesday morning. And look, we have a hurricane moving towards Florida. This will be Milton. And so Milton, after a couple days telling you there probably won't be a hurricane, that escalated quickly. And so, and really it started showing up last night on the European model, started showing a hurricane for Florida, and then the GFS following suit this morning. And the Canadian also has a hurricane, although further out in time. So all three models, really the three main models, are agreeing of a hurricane for Florida. So this is Tuesday, heavy rainfall. Milton moving towards Florida, more heavy rain. It just keeps raining. And then the hurricane itself. Now, if this comes exactly true, we're going to be, between Tampa and Fort Myers in here somewhere, and then moving across the center part of the state. And then it's just going to keep going. So south of Jacksonville this time and moving out. Now, all right, there goes the hurricane. Now we're into the 11th here. See the 540 line into New Hampshire and also to, oh my goodness, I have to be really careful with this. Okay, there goes the low. There's the 540 line right here for New Hampshire and Vermont. And then that goes away. Now, a couple things we're watching. We're watching some colder air in Canada, maybe dropping south. This is the 12th, so this is Columbus Day. And a system moving south into the Rockies. Snow for Wyoming and Colorado, along with some rain and some thunderstorms even. Maybe some sleet. And that thing drops all the way down into Texas by Sunday the 13th. And then we see a cold front here This 540 line tells me cold air is spilling southward behind the low. And so, again, the demarcation between rain and snow, and you see a little bit of snow here in parts of Wyoming. This is Monday the 14th at 0Z, so you subtract 5. So this is late Sunday night on the 13th. So a week away, a week and a few days away. And look at this. What happens sometimes if you have an upper level low that has a cold core, it can create its own cooling, evaporative cooling as the ice crystals form and it starts to snow. So Nebraska, maybe some snow in here on the 14th. We're not done yet. Check this out. I'll just get to the dramatic part. So we see a cold rain coming down Missouri, Iowa, and then as this surface low lifts and as the upper level low pours this cold air down. Now again, this is past a week out. This hasn't shown up on any other runs yet, so I'm not saying this will happen, but I'm saying it could happen. So we have snow up here in northwestern Iowa, into South Dakota, into Nebraska, parts of Kansas, and it busted out with some heavy snow where I live, which I'm excited about that. So I do hope this comes true. So the 14th, Monday the 14th, could see some snow in western Iowa and eastern Nebraska and a little bit of Minnesota. So we'll see how that goes. Look at that low, just cranked up. And the snow into Nebraska and Kansas, very windy as well. And that 540 line, just the circle around the low. So, again, I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just saying it could happen. And then as the low kind of weakens, and we have a secondary low here ahead of it now and some rain showers in the Ohio Valley. And then that moves off, and now we're into Thursday the 17th. And there's another low. Oh, no, I guess it's not. So let me back up. So this is our second low, and there's our first low. So the first low dropping south and all the way down into West Texas by the 13th. And then behind it, cold air and another low dropping into the plains and eventually Midwest with that chance of snow for Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, even a little bit of Missouri. Anyway, that's insane. We'll see if that happens. That's crazy. So we've got a hurricane coming, it looks like, for Florida, perhaps by the weekend. And then our fortune's really changing weather-wise by the middle of the month because it's just been boring and warm and dry, and that may change in a hurry. All right, 6 to 10 day temperatures. There's your warm and dry and boring. This is the 10th through the 14th. Above average temperatures, most of the country. Below average, Florida through the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. So sorry. All right, precipitation-wise, dry, especially the center of the country. Florida, the biggest exception. Now, looking ahead to the next weekend. So this is a week from today, right here, your anomalies, your temperature anomalies, and there's that cold air dropping into the northern plains. And ahead of it, very warm for the Great Lakes and upper Midwest. And then on Sunday, that cold air makes fast progress south. So 25 degrees below average Amarillo. And that cold front stretching through Wisconsin. So 15, 20 degrees below average for parts of Iowa into Kansas, eastern Colorado, and slightly below average for Wyoming. So that's what we're looking at, a big change mid-month. We'll see exactly what that means as we get closer and it comes more into focus. I doubt we'll have that much snow here in western Iowa on the 15th, but I hope so. I think that would be awesome. But again, it's one run and it's over a week away, so we'll have to wait and see how things go. Meanwhile, it looks like Hurricane Milton now for Florida by this weekend. And we'll keep you posted on that as well. So really appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise right here on the Weather Mic.